call this meeting to order. Is there any public comment on items not listed on the agenda? The next item would be adoption of the Historic Review Board minutes. Anybody want to make a motion or?
I'll move for adoption. I'd be glad to approve.
Anybody second?
Second.
Okay.
All right. Insel? Aye. Mr. Baker?
Aye.
Mr. Ivan?
Aye.
Mayor Laughlin?
Aye.
Okay, passes 4-0.
Okay, we're going to swap and address HR 10-09, 1008 Jefferson Street. So I got to.
So this has already been.
Is it? It's kind of open, isn't it? It's been open floating for a couple weeks. Sweet. Well, I do have to.
And there's nobody new, so we don't have to hear it again.
We don't have to do the ex parte or interest.
Oh, because we already did it.
We did that.
I think the key is what Ms. Richter mentioned was if anybody new is involved in this process, and so far,
No, so we can go
no
ahead.
one
And,
is new. Yeah, that's correct.
I don't have to read this thing at
Yep,
all.
so I can start with the staff report if you'd like.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Sorry, we get my spot. As you recall, at the previous meeting, the Historic Review Board looked at the applicant's presentation for a site addition on their designated property in McLaughlin Conservation District. Initially, staff had recommended denial of this application. Through deliberations, applicant's presentation, and public comments, the board recommended to staff to return to the meeting with findings of fact in support of the application. Staff has done that. You'll see in your packet attached are draft findings of fact. Tonight, if you have any additions, we can add them. They don't have to be written. You can verbally comment that I'd like to add this comment or this concept as part of your motions, and then I can incorporate that in the final findings of fact when it is mailed out to those withstanding next week. Let's see. Based on what the applicant has proposed, I really don't see any conditions of approval that would be applicable to this, other than a potential one that this is more of a for information for the applicant, but that there'll be a final site visit by staff prior to certificate of occupancy and at release of building permit to verify that what has been turned in meets what the board initially approved, but that doesn't necessarily need to be added as a condition of approval. That is just a process that's done naturally through the planning and building development process. I often add those in as conditions of approval when we have other ones. As such, I don't see any additional conditions unless the board would like to add them. One thing I would like direction from the board: if during the development process there are small tweaks that need to be made, if the board can give me kind of direction about what things I could approve on a staff level and what things you would like to see back in front of the review board, that would be helpful as I work with the applicant this winter on their addition. Inevitably, always some small things always come up, and it'd be nice to get general direction from the board on what I can approve on a staff level during the building permit process.
For example.
Discussion on siting, reveal, if the applicant wants to have a slightly different reveal on the addition than the main, if the applicant wants to have slightly different moldings of the windows in the main, if they want to, trying to think, those are the two I can think of. Is that something that the board would, on a staff level, I would see that would be a way to help differentiate it from old to new, but kind of what direction would you give me? The applicant may not want to, they may want to proceed with what they have what they have presented, but I just would like to get some parameters from the board on what you would like to see in regards to needing it to come back in front of you for review. And that's about all I have. I know the applicant's here. I don't believe that there's any additional information, so I'm really looking for direction from the board before the findings of fact are adopted.
Do you guys want to make any other comments other than what was spoken previously? You're good? Okay. Do I need to ask
Is there any public comments?
Is there anybody in the public that wishes to comment on this item on the agenda?
And you'll see, was it able to be uploaded? Or, no? Okay. You'll receive hard copies from Ms. McGriff from McLaughlin Neighbors Association. She commented both on HR 1009 and HR 1008, and this will be Exhibit 1 in tonight's hearing. And I don't know if Ms. McGriff would like to make oral comments or if you want to just rely on the written comments. Okay. So,
Was sent by you today?
Yeah.
So that would be your comments? Okay.
I'll fill it out if that's okay.
Do you wish to add anything? Go ahead.
Yes, I do. Denise McGriff, McLaughlin Neighborhood Association. Just so that you are aware, after your last meeting, when I had asked for the continuance, I sent an email to the entire steering committee to let them know what happened so that they could advise me on how they wanted to respond to this. So we have 11 steering committee members, and I received 7 responses from them, and I gave them a certain time frame, so I said, you need to get back to me by. So basically I just want to give you a little bit more background. I tried to keep this fairly short. Basically, they appreciated the fact that we were able to get the continuance. That was the comment from everyone. And they wanted the owners to know that they really appreciated the fact that they had taken pains with this particular piece of property, and Terry Stewart in particular had sent a picture to us to show us kind of what it looked like before and the after. And it was interesting, everyone to a person, I'd say, except for probably Brian, said, you know, we really applaud them, we really want to support them on this. And they all kind of said they really would have liked to have seen your suggestion drawn, because I explained it to them, kind of what you were proposing. They're recommending approval regardless, but they said that it would have been really great if the house had been able to be just a little tiny bit, a little bit more set back. And I just put in the quote, which says, recommend if there's any way to set back the new addition to make, and that was the quote, difference between the old and the new. They said that would be better. I did want you to know that I also expressed to them a little bit of my concern about using visibility as a criteria. I don't really think I saw that in our criteria that we have for the code. So I would just say that's something we do need to think about for future. If you have a work session, I'd probably like to talk about that a little more. Christina and I can have some very lively conversations, and I appreciate her perspective, and it's really good to sort of kind of turn your hat around and think about it in a different way. So that's all I really wanted to add, and just say that the final comment from everyone is that we do recommend that this be approved, although they had a little comment. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else from the public? No? Okay. Any comments from the board on this at all? Talk about this?
I spoke the same way I did last time.
Okay.
Ken, I was not here last time. Did you?
Going back 2 meetings when we originally discussed this, when Christina was out and
I
was out as well. Maybe you were as well, so you'd have to go back to the minutes. But basically, what we felt in looking at the proposal was that, and this is what Denise was referring to, is the perspective when you stand in the road and look at the house, the small setback on the addition is minimized by the upslope and by the fact that you stand down below the house and you look up at it and the road ends right there.
Right.
So we felt that the minimal setback, which is there for good and practical reason, why they can't push it back further. We felt it was a reasonable compromise to make just because of the lay of the land.
Okay. I think that's reasonable. I mean, I think there needs to be some setback, but it could be minimal.
The setback, I mean, the structure setback 18 inches, I don't know, the association's thinking.
Well, I think they were just putting another pitch in to
Trying to
that
get back, but I
yeah.
think structurally with the stairs
Right.
and stuff, it's kind of.
I think that was their comma. I think
Yeah.
it was going back to my initial staff comments.
I'm very comfortable with it.
Okay.
So if any direction on staff,
I think what you're saying as far as direction, as far as what you're looking for that you as staff can improve, I think siding and reveal, I think,
We don't want to hurt anything.
no, it's being proposed.
Shingles, if there's any issues with that, or if they're gonna redo the roof, I think you could probably do that. Windows are a no-brainer. I think that's fine. I don't think. Does anybody have a problem with that? No. Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay.
That's the direction I wanted to get. So, just to reiterate that, right now the applicant's proposed siding and window trim that matches the house, but if the applicant wanted to slightly tweak it, to differentiate new from old, that's something that staff could look at.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. If somebody wants to set this in motion, then
I move we approve HR 1009. The proposed, finding of fact.
anybody want to second that? I'll second that. Okay.
Ms. Cole? Aye. Mr. Dixon?
Aye.
Mr. Eglin?
Aye.
Chair McLaughlin?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. Yep. Need to call.
I'd like to recommend that we have a recess,
Yeah,
to find
maybe
the, fifth historic review board member needed for our quorum.
Maybe we take
You want to take
a good 5-minute recess, but do you have her phone number? He's fine.
Renee wants to stop it, we'll take a 5-minute recess.
Stop. Yeah, let's make a. Okay, so.
You do have to read the whole thing. Yeah. And then at that point, then we,
Oh, I gotta read this thing. So, are we like live? Okay. All right, we're back. Next on the agenda is HR 10-08-1506 10th Street, Oregon City. So we'll now commence the public hearing on agenda item HR 10-08-1506 10th Street for a request for the approval of second floor addition. The criteria for approval of a land use action are contained in Chapter 17 of the Oregon City Municipal Code. The proposed development must comply with applicable provisions contained in the City of Oregon City Comprehensive Plan. Generally, unless otherwise noted, if a request is found to be consistent with the municipal code, it is considered consistent with the comprehensive plan. If you wish to participate in this hearing, including challenges for bias or conflict of interest, you must complete the sign-in form located on the table at the front of the room and deliver it to staff. Please do so immediately. The chair will only recommend those who have submitted complete form. Testimony will be taken in the following order: applicant, testimony in favor, testimony in opposition, rebuttal by applicant. When recognized by the chair, please come forward to the podium, give your name, address, and make your statement. All testimony, arguments, and evidence presented regarding this request must be directed toward the applicable criteria or other criteria in the plan or land use regulation which the person believes to apply to the decision. Please address only the applicable criteria for the decision. Please do not repeat testimony. If you wish, you may choose merely to agree with the previous speaker's statement. An issue which may be the basis for an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals shall be raised not later than the close of the record at or following the final evidentiary hearing. Such issues shall be raised and accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the Commission and the parties an adequate opportunity to respond to each issue. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision makers and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Failure of persons to participate in the public hearing, either orally or in writing, precludes that person's right of appeal to the City Council or LUBA. Written testimony submitted prior to the hearing constitutes participation in the hearing. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to proposed conditions of approval sufficient specificity to allow the decision maker to respond to the rules and action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence, arguments, or testimony regarding the application. The Commission shall grant such request by continuing the public hearing pursuant to the standard contained in ORS 197.763. Do any of the members of the board have a conflict of interest or ex parte contact regarding this application? Yes. Who has visited the site? Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Ken to be the chair. Close it. We'll close the conflict. Disclose. Oh, yeah. They've entered into a contract with the Tolls to perform the remodeling of their project, of their house. So.
And the cold.
So I can turn it over to Ken. Okay.
See ya. Don't we call you back for something later?
We have to close the hearing.
I will be happy to entertain a staff report.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Basinger. I am happy to make this presentation this evening. This application was continued from the September 14th, 2010 hearing for lack of quorum, so this is the first presentation of this application this evening. Initially, in the original staff report, I incorrectly identified it as 1509 10th Street. I apologize, and I've tried to amend any address to reflect that. In 2003, the Historic Review Board approved a two-car garage, rear breakfast nook addition, and a rear gabled porch dormer, which was a file HR 0303. In 2003, the applicant chose not to pursue the rear dormer and completed the application. The the dormer and the kitchen addition was not completed, but the two-car garage was completed in 03. The applicant is here again this evening because the approval has lapsed since the 03 approval, and the applicant would like to proceed with the dormer addition. This is a map of the location. You'll see the applicant actually owns two tax lots. The tax front, that's on 10th Street, and then the rear garden, which is on a separate tax lot. We are just looking at the existing landmark, which is the main tax lot. This shows the existing condition of the front elevation with the cross gable dormer. This is the proposed rear addition with the second story dormer with two new wood windows and wood French doors with a new wood balcony. You'll see that it is definitely offset in from the sides. This shows the side elevation. You can see the front elevation is a cross gable dormer, and the rear elevation is a shed dormer. It shows the other side. This is a side view. This is some site photos showing the location. As you can see, from the 10th Street, it'd be very hard to see much or any of the rear dormer addition. This is looking at the property. We are further down 10th Street looking up. As proposed, the new dormer addition, you will be able to see the side portion of the dormer addition from this vantage point. This is up looking back. It'd be very hard to slightly be able to see the dormer addition on that side. This looks the existing condition of the rear of the house. You see the dormer would provide quite a lot of new space for the applicant. This is showing from the garden looking back at the property. And this is just an illustrative shot. This is up on 9th Street. You can kind of see the little person down at the far corner. The elevation is much higher on 9th Street, and you actually cannot see back down to the applicant's property. You would have to go completely to the back of the apartments on private property to see the rear of the property. So I wanted to show that as an illustration. currently really the only two elevations that can see the dormer are looking up on off the street for 10th Street. You'll be able to see the side portion of the dormer, and then as you go down slightly, you'll be able to see a little less view, but you'll be able to see a little bit of it. And then I'll leave it. Unlike the previous application, HR 1009, where on a staff level I recommended denial, I felt that this topography did suit itself because it was a rear dormer addition and not a side addition, because a vast majority of the elevations are not visible from the public right of way. And while oftentimes you had a gable dormer matching on front to back, it was not exclusive, and a shed dormer is still an appropriate option for the rear of the house. On staff level, I am recommending approval. It is still a large addition, and it's still a large shed dormer. And if this was a very, very public elevation, maybe on a corner lot, very flat, where the rear was part of the identity of the house, I think my staff recommendation may be a little bit different. But this rear addition does not provide a public identity. It's not, well, it is an elevation of a historically designated structure. It's not the most contributing elevation. It's by far the least contributing elevation, as you can see from one of the rear shots. And so on that basis, I am recommending approval on a staff level for this application. The applicant is proposing wood windows and siding to match, and as proposed, I don't have any additional conditions of approval.
Very good, thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation to make or a comment?
My name is Cindy Toll. I live at 1506 10th Street.
Richard Toll, same others.
We decided to change our addition because of, I know you read this already, but I just wanted to say I would have preferred to have the old addition because I thought it looked better. But, you know, with the two gables that we originally went for, but we found out it was going to be so much more expensive because there would have been so much more material required, and we wouldn't have gleaned as much space
Usable floor space.
we're going to get with this. Just because, you know, I'm a traditionalist and I like gables, I would have liked to have that, but like, it's just been brought out. It probably, nobody would have been able to appreciate it except for us anyway, because, you know, nobody can see it. So this is giving us a lot more to work with. And we're going to be able to get a bathroom in there, which will be nice to have a bathroom on the top floor.
And one thing I'd like to point out, the architect mistakenly drew shingles on the side, and it's
Well, we don't have shingles on the house.
it's cedar siding.
And we don't have an asphalt roof on the front dormer.
Sorry.
I guess that's it.
Do board members have any questions of the applicants?
I just, when I was looking at the plan, the way it exists now, sorry, when I looked at the diagram of the way the house looks now, I was wondering whether you had a bathroom upstairs. It didn't look like you do.
Oh, we have only had one bathroom for many years, and we just put one in the basement not too long ago.
So what is upstairs now?
Just bedrooms.
2 bedrooms and a sleeping porch.
Okay.
The only comment I have is on the existing house, the dormer, the rear wall is set back in, which is more traditional. This is more of a contemporary look, and it's kind of troublesome to me, rather than having it set back within the structure. on the back wall. It brings the scale down, but I understand your desire for additional square footage.
Right.
We did set the sides back to maintain the original roof line from the side of the house. But yes, we are trying to maximize the floor space upstairs.
I don't know if anyone else had an issue or concern about that, and it's looking more like a subdivision house when you push the wall out to align with the lower wall.
I have looked at a lot of dormers in Oregon City, and a lot of them look like this. Just like we're only adding about 256 square feet, and all that is the floor space on the second floor that couldn't be accessed because
Of the pitch of
the
the
roof
Right.
was taking up all of that.
Yeah.
So raising the roof, we're able to go back to the edge of the house.
But
Not
you understand what I'm saying? If you bring that back 2 feet and have an 8-foot pipe there, then it's not as intrusive.
Mhm. That's going to cut 2 feet off of a bedroom and
Right.
that's already only 10 feet wide. So
I'm trying to get back to the photographs, but
That's on PowerPoint.
Oh, PowerPoint.
You can't go back to it.
I understand what you're saying, Todd, but the front dormer seems to come out just this far, doesn't it, to the very end?
The front dormer does.
Yeah.
The sleeping porch is not originally a dormer. It was a sleeping porch, but the dormer on the existing comes back here.
I see.
And so that roof is a little steeper.
See, I didn't notice that, or it didn't disturb me because I knew it came out that far in front, so it just equaled it in the
And
back.
part of the reason is because the weight load of the roof needs to be distributed, and so it'll be a structure, you have to tear the first floor up in order to structurally support the load 2 feet back from the outside wall.
Right,
So
you
we
have
have
to
to
add
we'd
more.
have to put a beam in there to hold the roof load.
Put strong back up above the existing.
But then to carry that, then we have to do something to the house. If we put a beam up above to carry, then that load has to be to the outside wall. So we'd have to tear up. Already we've had to tear up from the basement all the way to the second floor for the mid-support beam.
Right.
And now, if we transfer the load 2 feet in from the outside, we have to do something and tear up the inside of the house to support the load, either in the middle or on the outside edges that we put a header up there. So structurally, this is the easiest solution.
So I also wanted to draw your attention to the drawing off the back of the house, where it shows the balcony, and you can see that the edge of the dormer, the bottom edge of the dormer, the addition,
With this drawing here.
right, this drawing right here.
She did a color up here. This one.
You can see that there's roof,
There's a reveal, so
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so it gives a sense of it being set back when you're looking at it from the back, because it's got some roof hanging over. The only place that it really looks straight down is when you're looking at the house from the side, and you can see the full length of the house, which you can't really do unless you walk right up to it.
Right, and there's not a good vantage point, I really say.
Right.
I did have one question about the design of the railing on that rear deck. Is that
Gonna be
consistent with the period? I don't know.
Well-
I'm asking just a straight question.
The photographs that Christina used are old, and they don't show the railings we already have from the building of the garage. We have wrought iron powder coated, and what we were thinking of doing is carrying that seam up above with some posts.
there'll be 4x4 posts on the corner and then a wrought iron
in
in the
between.
middle.
Okay.
The architect is good like that.
Yeah, he discussed
It looks more contemporary the way it's drawn to me.
Yeah, it does, and we don't care for it.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. Are there comments from the public not already entered in the record? We do have the letter from the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association in support of the application.
You can enter that into the record as Exhibit 1, and then we also have that PowerPoint presentation as Exhibit 2.
Denise McGriff again, representing the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association Steering Committee. It's always good to come because people bring up stuff that you haven't thought of. I thought it was set back. It appears to me that the dormer is set back, which I thought was the way it was. So now I'm hearing it's not set back.
It's in line with the wall below.
It's in line with the wall below. Okay, and then I thought that the railing looked more appropriate because it's got some dimension to it as opposed to thinner. So that would be helpful if that had been labeled that way because I thought it was wood. And that's what I was basing my comments on to the steering committee, that there's wood windows, there's wood railing, all of that. I'm not saying I'm going to recommend changing our opinion, but some of those little details would have been real helpful to know because it is the devil's in the details. I'm not sure I would go with wrought iron, but I don't know about wrought iron. Is there wrought iron anywhere else in the house? All over. Because I've been there, I mean, I will say for the record, I've been there many times. I remember the back of the house, which is, I think having a dormer back there is more appropriate. And I agree with Cindy that I like the gable, because I like gables too, but I understand why they're doing this yet. That makes sense. But it's just a couple, I know it's not intentional, but the architect just didn't label everything, and so I'm I have a little bit of a dilemma here. I think overall that the composition of it is good. Like I said, I thought it was set back, and that's what I based my comments on. And again, with the railing, so I'll leave it at that for your discussion. But you know what would have been really helpful, even though I remembered what the back of it looked like, it would have been helpful to have either an elevation or a photograph attached that showed, here's the before and then here's the after, because that some of the other steering committee members didn't go over there. I'm sure they didn't. Thank you.
Any comments back from the applicants? No further public testimony. We'll now close the public hearing
I had one more question for that.
and go into discussion. So your comment is for
the applicant.
okay.
On the rear side, what is the overhang of upper level?
On the very top,
On the dormer.
I think it's 2 feet on the lower and it's 18 inches on the upper.
Because it looks like a very large reveal above the windows. And it's a very shallow pitch. It looks like it's less than 2 and 12 pitch.
Yeah, I don't have the drawing in front of me. Yeah, the overhang.
At the upper level too?
In the upper level too? Are we going 2 feet there or the 18?
Because the back appears to be a 212 pitch. So it's going to have 1.5, so it's going to have a roll roof or PVC membrane or something. So it seems like with that low slope, you might have an opportunity for a longer overhang, which will give you more protection, especially at the deck area. Maybe that actually goes out even farther.
Just for rain protection? Yeah.
For rain protection, and also at the deck, if it just comes out in line with the deck, it would delineate that area and break it up or rear facade a little more too.
Right.
It might be an opportunity that gives you a little more character to the house.
It is going to have the rafter tails exposed up there just like the rest of the...
Right, but there's no reason you couldn't extend them out. I mean, normally with the shallower pitch like that, you'd have a 3 to 4 foot overhang.
Okay.
It would look nice.
It would look better.
Yeah.
What lost that?
I'm sorry, we need to pick this up, so if you need it, see if you need to find a, yeah, you need to be on mic.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Just be on mic.
My question to him was, did he think it would look lopsided if we had 18 on the side and 3 on the back?
Your pitch is so shallow there. I mean, I like to see the vision a little closer to the window heads when possible. I mean, there's a lot of space above the window head there.
It's actually that's it. This is what I think with two top ways over 600.
But you're only talking about a 6-inch fall or less.
But I think those windows actually will be higher up, not the door. The French door is going to be a 6A, and I think that's how that guy drew it. Was the windows are in line with the
door,
French door. You think it would look better if those windows were raised up, off the line of the door? I think.
I don't think so.
No, I think they need to stay in line.
But I think that overhang, extending that out further, it's going to give you more weather protection.
Well, that was a suggestion by myself a while ago, because this is a exterior door on a deck that's cantilevered out with the flashing involved. Any overhang protection, especially on a lower pitched roof, would lend itself to a lot of good protection, just because it is almost flat. So it could, but it also depends on, and I don't have the drawings or anything, but from that ridge out, I don't remember the distance if it's beyond 17 or 18 feet, out of a 20-foot board. You know what I mean? You can only go so far.
22 footers.
Special order. Good special order.
No, I don't think it's that long of a span. That's why I'm bringing it up. Right?
So I can't remember not having the drawing. What this, actually, now, see, I have to scale it. I don't have the drawings with me. From the ridge, that exterior wall.
The house is 30 by 24, so half of 24 would be 12 out.
And at that low pitch,
So deep. So if it's 24 and 12, we could get longer. You could get longer rafters and probably put like a 2x6 tail sticking out instead of the traditional 2x4, something like that.
Yeah, you're only talking 16 footers. It sounds like.
If that's in fact what they are, then we could do that. But I think 4 might be too much. But perhaps 3 might be. I don't think it would look bad.
3 you can do with 2x4s.
We could cut the 2x10 tails at 2.5. Get the same.
I think that in sunlight though, getting in the windows and the doors.
Flat roof. But
It'll cut down on your summer sun, but not your winter sun.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
the sun's lower, so it's not gonna.
Winter sun's not going to be impacted at all.
Oh, but the summer sun will.
But you want to shade from that summer sun
Sometimes
anyway.
sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't.
Just a suggestion. I don't know if other board members can go or not.
So you're not going to make that like a
We're going to talk about that. Okay. Any further questions of the applicants or the? Okay, then we can close the public hearing at this point and go to deliberation. So we've talked about really 2 issues, maybe 3 if you, well, the setback of the upstairs addition would be 1. The overhang of the roof would be 2, and the design of the railing on the deck would be 3. thoughts?
Well, the setback, I think it would be better if it didn't go all the way out to the end, but given what you have to work with here and the lack of visibility from the street, and the expense that would be incurred to do it another way, I think that this works fine, and so I would support that.
I felt like the mechanical constraints there were significant.
Right. As for the overhang, I think it would look a lot better if the roof came out further, at least to the end of the balcony, and I think the applicants would probably like it a lot more and be able to use it more if they did that.
Well, there's a 5-foot balcony, so that would be huge and supportive roof.
So maybe not all the way, but further would be
Further would be good, but I don't feel strongly about making that a requirement. And again, that is not something that is very visible, so I would leave it up to the applicant. The railing, I know that Rick Toll does beautiful ironwork and has done beautiful wrought iron railings around that house. And frankly, it would mirror what's on the ground, so I think it would fit in with what's on the property already to have iron railings.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree on that point.
And it's not, once again, it's not visible from the right of way.
Correct.
So we seem to be in agreement on issues 1 and 3. It's only thing left in question then would be the overhang on the roof. If we want to attach some condition of approval relating to that.
No, I honestly think they'd be much happier with at least a 3-foot overhang out there at that low pitch, because otherwise, it's going to look like a flat roof. Can't leave it out there. But that I don't know that it needs to be a condition of approval. Maybe it could be a recommendation and something that we could direct staff to allow.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. I think that's Christina?
A staff question on number 3, the design of the railing. And I'm just looking through thinking process. When I have what the applicant has turned in. It sounds like they want to deviate a little bit from it. I guess what I'm trying to find is my parameters of what I can and cannot approve on a staff level when we get down to the actual design of the railing.
Do you folks intend to make the railing match the railing down below?
I can't find the balusters anymore.
Mr. Consigliere, we need to open up the public hearing.
Yes, we will reopen the public hearing. And
It was about the handrail or the railing on the balcony for the addition, and the balusters that I've used currently, I can't find those anymore. So I have a local company that's going to provide a similar baluster, but the look of it will still be the same top rail, and then balusters every 4 inches, and the bottom rail the same as existing on the lower elevation.
So they'll have substantially the same appearance. Okay. Further questions? Thank you. We will now close the public hearing again. Resume deliberation. We'll entertain a motion.
I guess I'll make a motion that we approve application 10-08, 1506 10th Street with staff recommendations and the recommendation that the overhangs at the rear side be extended, but we'll leave that up to staff recommendation for final approval. Or leave that to staff decision for final approval.
I'll second it.
All right.
Ms. Seeds?
Aye.
Mr. Eidman?
Aye.
Mr. Basinger?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
And I apologize for, I'm just not doing too well. No, I'm not doing too well. I obviously didn't even know what day of the week it was.
Board members who previously excused themselves for ex parte reasons may now resume their rightful positions, including those in authority. We'll proceed. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, now we're on to general business, the Ermitinger House update.
I have none, but I have promised that every single meeting I will put that as an agenda item as a particular. I am still trying to work with Scott Archer, and we'll give you an update on the window repair and just any future grants or kind of the next step that the city would like to move on. But that's all I have right now for Ermitinger.
Okay. Are we kind of back to a regular schedule next month? As in work session on what looks to be the 12th?
Yeah, and right now I don't have anything for the 12th, though there may be a grant, but I don't know.
And probably nothing for the 26th at this point.
No, but what we do have on the 26th, you may remember the email I sent out a while back, the RFP for the inventory project that we are getting the grant from the District Preservation Office, our CLG grant for next year, if you recall, is to hire a consulting firm to do the kind of definitive inventory of the rest of the buildings that are 50 years or older. And we have sent that RFP out to the all the tentacles of the preservation community. And I have heard back from quite a number of people, and I've had some good conversations. And what we are doing is it's due on Monday the 11th. And then based on what's turned in, I'm recommending that we use the October 26th HRB meeting to interview prospective candidates, so we don't have to, we can kind of double dip our meetings, so we don't have to.
Is that our job, like to select the dude doing it? Oh, gee.
Yeah. And one applicant was from out of state, and it was unrealistic being from Kentucky to come to that meeting. So I recommended that we do a conference call at the October 26th meeting. If they do indeed end up turning in their RFP response, I think we can. We have technology here, so I think we can set up a conference call for them.
So we'll do that as easily as we can make the PowerPoint.
You're going to winnow down to X amount of applicants?
I think based on what is turned in, I will send emails out to the board to figure out what the next step will be. We've never been in a situation where we've had more than 4 or 5 people turn something in, so it's been pretty easy to invite everyone to come for 15-minute presentation. If we for some reason get much more than 4 or 5, then I think we can cross that bridge on the 11th to figure out. I let all the people that are interested that we would contact them if their application was moving forward with oral interviews. It's not a guarantee, but we'll see. I don't think we'll have more than 4 or 5. So.
That's great. Actually, my master's project was an inventory to include another area of your district. And then when Todd just said professor of students, it just popped in my head that, does it have to be somebody that you pay, or could you turn this into a project that's free that students get a benefit out of?
Well, that's what happened in 2002. Dave Payard with the District Preservation Northwest also taught in U of O, preservation class, and he used his grad students because they were doing a little bit more intensive reconnaissance level surveys, and he utilized student labor for that. And
They were free, he got paid.
Well, someone could turn that into,
But there still has to be a coordinator, and there still has to be
Right.
someone who meets the Secretary of Interior Standards preservation criteria in order to meet the CLG standards. So there still has to be a project coordinator, and there may be volunteer work done inside of it. And some inventories use volunteer work for anything. It could be community volunteer work. It could be student volunteer work, but there's still a project manager with preservation experience that's in charge of it, and it will still be that person we'll be contracting with. And it's up to every group to make kind of their presentation pitch on why they think they meet our overall goals of what we want to get out of this project, and also meet those requirements. Since we are receiving half of the money from the State Historic Preservation Office.
okay, so in a couple weeks, maybe something, maybe nothing at all. We have nothing, no meeting. And then perchance then,
Correct. I should know by the end of this week if we'll have a grant application. And if we don't, unless the board has anything they want to work on, I'll leave it up to the board about the October work session. But right now, we definitely have something for the October 26th meeting,
Got it.
which is the interviews.
okay?
We have in the past from McLaughlin and Greenman.
I will be in Boston for the National Press Conference. I'll be flying all day.
And it's up to the board how you want to construct your interviews. So in the past, we've had, when they were more specific to a neighborhood association, we've had people on the neighborhood association actually on the selection committee, because, like the design guidelines, and we had the inventory. This is not necessarily, Kenema McLaughlin specific, but, it's up to you as a board how you'd like to bring outside community knowledge into your selection process. So I'll kind of leave that to you to give direction to me on staff level.
Well, because these are very sites throughout the city,
Mhm.
I would ask for any neighborhood association that wants involvement to be participating.
Okay.
I will be happy to give some comments to staff prior to your meeting on the 26th.
And people out in Holcomb and stuff most likely are not going to want to participate.
Well, most of the park plans actually already been inventoried, but that was also in the 90s. So this is, a lot of over 50-year-old buildings that are not contributing. But I can contact the CIC. It's sounding more like receiving comments rather than having them on like a selection committee. Okay.
I think the streamlined time limit officially is drawing you out of a hat.
Your word out here.
Yeah.
So,
No, I don't know. Okay, so is there anything else?
I had a question for you. Someone called this afternoon, I paid you back to them. Stevens Coffee House,
yes,
they would like to put a new roof on it,
yes.
like next week.
If they meet the stroke review board policies on roofs, that's a staff approval.
We're going to go back to motions.
Okay.
So if there's nothing else, we'll close the meeting and be adjourned.